You are listening to the Wildlife Photography Podcast with Rob Reed and Josh Galicki, bringing together the love of nature and photography. Episode 17, an end-of-year message from Rob and Josh. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Wildlife Photography Podcast with me, Rob Reed, and my co-host Josh Galicki. Hey Josh, how's it going?
Hey, good, Rob. Just getting ready for the holidays, getting ready for the new year. Going well?
Well, exactly. Well, that's why we thought we'd just sort of sneak in a quick podcast before the year ends, because it's been difficult trying to get together, actually, hasn't it, to record another one just lately with all the sort of work commitments and everything else that we've got. And I know I'm just about to go away, and you're away for Christmas as well for a few days. So it's been quite difficult to find some time, but we've managed it, and we thought we'd just sort of record something quickly. So it's going to be a short episode. Just to sort of wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and all the best wishes for 2024 and all that. So why don't we start with just a sort of, well, let's catch up and see what we've been doing recently. I mean, what have you been doing over the last week or two?
Basically editing photos. This is that time of year.
Oh, you're not going back to Shetland again, are you?
Yeah, I'm starting to edit Shetland. You'll be very proud of me on that account, Rob. But the weather's been really, really nasty here. We had basically a nor'easter that just went through, and it has not been good shooting weather. So I've been editing some photos, getting settled in, and making some plans for the new year. There's some stuff around the house I've been shooting, but that's essentially it. Looking forward to the new year. There's maybe get a few trips planned, and hoping to get some new experiences. That's kind of what's going on.
Yeah, it's been full on, really, isn't it? I mean, obviously we've had culmination of Wild Art, which is still going on. So I've been trying to catch up with getting those categories judged. In fact, we did do some judging on the final one, Space, didn't we, earlier today?
There's going to be some great images coming up too. That was exciting.
And
I'm really, really happy where we landed with the winners. I think everybody's going to be pretty pleased with those.
Yeah, no, there's some cracking stuff in there. So I've been busy with that. Obviously, we did the announcements for Naturescapes last weekend, so only a few days ago. So that was preparing for that, and then I've been, as I was saying to you off air, I don't do much commercial photography work anymore, but I do have a client or two that I've been working for years, and I had one of those jobs which came up. It's supposed to be 3 days, extended to 4 days now, probably more. So that's been keeping me busy, and now I've got to edit all those images as well. So there's well over 1,000 of those to be going on with, but they'll have to wait until the new year because, of course, we're going away. Well, tomorrow, in fact. So I'm busy packing bags and organizing everything as well. So we're pretty lucky. We managed to get a window of half an hour or something just to sit down and just record something quickly for everybody, because I didn't want to just leave it over the holidays and not put anything up, because it's been quite a ride, hasn't it, really, the podcast? It's been gone really well this year.
Yeah, it has. And, we've got a couple guests lined up, and there's going to be a lot coming up in January and February. So I'm really excited about it. There'll be a lot of cool conversations, a lot of different topics to address. So there'll be a lot more to come.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about the content, haven't we? And I know I've been saying, I've been trying to line up guests for quite a while, but it is quite tricky, trying to get everybody sort of, on the same page and free at the same time, so we can actually record these things. So, but we are going to be, we've got at least 3 sort of guest recordings lined up, haven't we, over the course of January. So what might happen is we might record them in batches and then sort of put them out over a course of weeks. I think that's probably where we're going to go, but we certainly want to do more next year, because I said this year has been, we've had such nice comments from people and really good feedback from everybody. So thanks to everybody for that. It seems to be that people are enjoying our discussions.
Yeah, I get comments all the time. I mean, week after week, I'll get comments, just people really appreciating the content, and I just, I'm just thankful for all the folks who tune in to listen, and I'm really appreciative for it, because I think it's been valuable to them and it's valuable to us too. I mean, I think, some of these things, that we've decided to talk about over the past couple of months, actually the past year or more than a year now. It's fun to not only talk about, but you learn about these things too as you talk through them. You come up with different ideas, and I think it's the same for the listeners out there. And yeah, it's great to hear the feedback. A lot of people are appreciating it.
Yeah, some surprising things come up, don't they, when we
Yeah.
when we just chat? And yeah, we go down rabbit holes we never thought we would do. So I think that's the way it is with this, the sort of organic nature of it. Really, I just think is quite refreshing in lots of ways. I mean, I'm not afraid to talk about anything really, and I think that's the way it should be.
And we've talked about stuff, we've talked about issues in the past, and I think people appreciated it that a lot of nature photographers or people in this community do not address, especially that ethics conversation we had
That
with
was a great
Georgina
conversation.
joined us for that, and talking about certain things that seem to be verboten, but we address them, and I think people appreciate that.
Yeah, and there are various subjects that I'd like to go back and revisit as well. I'd like to expand on our social media chat, for example, because I think there's a much deeper discussion to be had on that topic. And talking of Georgina, of course, I did sort of reach out to her and had a conversation with her not so long ago, and she's going to come on in early January, and we're going to do a sort of YouTube podcast. So we're going to record it on YouTube, and we're going to put it out on the podcast as well, because we want to do a kind of 2023 sort of review, if you like. And I know I didn't really want to do it over Christmas because everybody does it over Christmas. So let's leave it to the new year. Georgina couldn't do it till then anyway. But it would be nice to look back over some of the images that we've all taken, and our favorites from 2023, and discuss them and tell everybody why, and the sort of stories behind them, and the thought processes behind them, just to act as a bit of inspiration, perhaps for kicking off the campaign for 2024. I mean, looking back at 2023, while we're on that subject, Josh, have you got a sort of favorite trip or favorite moment or favorite image from 2023 that springs to mind?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. You get to the end of the year and you start reflecting on, what you did in the past year. Definitely Shetland. I mean, I've never shot so much in my life on a trip, and working through some of the images, it was a really special experience. Whether it was at Hermanus, thousands of gannets flying underneath, puffins, skuas, all of that stuff, diving gannets. This was my first crack at underwater photography, so it was a really memorable trip. And also the other thing that sticks out, and it was just one of these random day trips I took not far from my house, and I went for a paddle, and I had peak fall color in a cypress swamp, and I came up with some just amazing material. I almost didn't even bring my camera. It was one of those, accidental things, and it's like, oh my God, this is perfect. And I came out with some of my favorite images from the year there. So
well, you showed me one of those, which is a fantastic shot. Yeah,
fantastic. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for it.
You're not sharing that on social media, are you?
Not yet. Not yet.
No. Well, I think for me, it has to be Shetland as well, of course. We were there sort of a couple of weeks apart, weren't we? But for anybody who hasn't been to Shetland, you have to experience these places to truly appreciate them. And when you're on that boat and you are at the base of that breeding colony, the cliffs, with the amazing breeding colony of gannets and guillemots and kittiwakes, and all the rest of it, it's what you can't get across in a photograph is the atmosphere and to me the smell of it. It's
that
just
energy too, right? There's a sense of energy all around you that's just I've been to some gannet colonies in North America, never with this experience though. Of course, it's much different to walk up to a colony that's roped off and you can see the activity versus having them diving all around you and coming sometimes within inches or sometimes just hitting you with their wings. I was cracked a couple times. So, I mean,
well, the Z9 got soaked. But I remember turning up there for the first time, and not putting the camera to my eye, and sort of Rebecca looking at me going, it's, you're going to crack on. It's like, no, I actually want to just sort of soak this up for a bit. I want to experience this before I sort of get too sort of myopically focused on one or two details or one or two birds. You really have to take some time and just soak up the whole experience before you get into it. Well, in my view, anyway, before
Yeah.
I want to get into and take any images, because it's unlikely you're going to be back there anytime soon. And there's so much stuff you could miss by just planting your eye into the viewfinder and just focusing on just a few details, whereas you need to experience the whole thing. And I think that actually comes across in some of the images that I ended up taking, because I came away from Shetland. No, normally if you get to the end of the year and you have 4 or 5 images that you're really pleased with, that's a good year. I had more than that when I came away from Shetland, and stuff that I've not shared on social media, and I've just kept. You've seen some of it.
Oh yeah,
because I've shown you. But
yeah,
there are 1 or 2 images in particular, and they are gannets that I'm not going to share quite yet. I don't know quite what I'm going to do with them. I might show one of them in our end of year review. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But you know the one I mean.
Your review is probably fair game. We could probably show that, right? Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about. The two gannets, and with the one with the open bill. Yeah, you know the one. You know the one.
Absolutely.
So that's got to be my highlight for 2023. And the other thing I've really enjoyed, actually, just recently, is the trees that I've been photographing. And the Celtic rainforest on that week I had off when I got married, and we spent a week in Wales. I guess the autumn color hasn't been great this year here, but there were some nice colors in that forest, and so I took a couple of nice shots there. In fact, one of them is hanging as a big print in my living room now. I cropped it as a 16:9, and I printed it. I can't remember the exact dimensions, but it's 2.5 feet wide, maybe, and it's sat above the sofa.
What type of paper did you use, Rob? Did you put it on matte or?
I got it done actually at Loxley Color, so I put it on a luster. They printed it on a luster Fujifilm, paper. I'm kind of thinking maybe I should have gone with a matte paper, but anyway, I printed it on. Looks great.
I guess it depends, right? Sometimes it's taste, sometimes it depends on the image. I like for matte. Whenever I use matte, it's more for high key. Looks great on matte. A lot of fine art stuff. If there's a lot of blacks and there's a lot of deep colors and stuff, I'll go for luster or glossy. It just kind of depends on the mood, And
well, there's another subject that we could be talking about, and that's
printing. I could go for hours on that. Actually, we should talk about that. Printing, because that's really the final. It's the last step that a lot of people just don't do anymore, thanks to the web, right? It's posting it online or posting it on the web, but there are a few images, I think, in everybody's portfolio that are worth printing and putting up on the walls, and everybody likes to display their own work or sell it, and it's commonly misunderstood, in my opinion. So we should definitely talk about printing.
Yeah, we should talk. I'll add it to the list to talk about. So and I keep saying this at the end of every podcast that we do, but we are open to suggestions. So if you do have something that you'd like us to talk about, then just leave it in the comments, or probably even better still, just get in touch with us through Instagram, and and we'll add it to the list if it's a decent suggestion. Because the other thing I wanted to talk about, and we have been trying to line somebody up to involve in this discussion, is making a living from wildlife photography, because that's that'd be a good topic.
Yeah, and there's only a few people that I'm aware of that do it, and most of the people that do it, it's mostly through workshops. It's educate. I think it's, speaking of printing, we were just talking about that. I think it's a lot harder to make money in the print business these days for obvious reasons, but So as a result of that, I think that you have a few. It's mostly books. Like Art Wolf comes to mind. I think he does pretty well with book sales, and people like art. But outside of that, it's mostly educational workshops. That's where teaching people how to shoot,
Yeah.
teaching people technique and the like, or just almost tour guide stuff. You have photographers who already know how to shoot, but you bring them to a location and you get them on the bird or the animal and whatnot, hides and different types.
Yeah,
Which
those
we're going
sorts
to
of
talk about.
businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which we are going to talk about and have people lined up to talk about next year. So yeah, that'd be an interesting discussion. And
Yeah.
I also wanted to, to do an episode on the benefits of photography in terms of mental health, because I think there's such a huge link there. I mean, photography for me has been so cathartic in many ways and
Yeah.
has been such an important part of my life, particularly during difficult phases of my life. I mean, we all go through ups and downs and difficulties, whether that's in your personal life or your working life or whatever. But photography has really been a fantastic source of solace, I think, for me,
Yeah.
and comfort. So I'd like to have that discussion, because I know that there are quite a few people that I've talked to about that. A lot of people that have entered the competitions that I've been involved with. That's been a common topic of discussion, has been how being involved with wildlife and wildlife photography has been such a tonic for them, for their struggles in life. And so I think
I,
that'd be a good topic.
yeah, I totally agree. And actually, yeah, that topic excites me too. I mean, since COVID, I've been a meditator. I've been doing mindfulness meditation now for a couple of years, and it's all about being present, right? And being in the moment and not being lost in your thoughts, and being aware that you're separate from you can be separate from your inner voice and your brain. But what helped me for that is photography. I mean, shooting for all these years, you're present when you're in the field and you're shooting. You're one. That sounds. You're one with nature. It's true, right? You're not two. You're one with nature, and that helped me very much when I started meditating and being just present and mindful, because that's kind of what you are when you're in the field and you're trying to get a shot. So yeah, I completely agree. It'd be a great conversation.
Yeah, I mean, meditating is not something I find very easy. My mind's too. I always find my mind's too busy. But I get what you're saying, actually. How that might help
Yeah.
for you to almost switch off and become focused on just one thing, as
Hmm.
opposed to having all these messages going off in your brain,
Yeah.
and well, what I call the chimp.
Yeah, or
Which is
either that, like extreme focus, or just the opposite, open awareness, where
yeah,
you're sitting in a scene and all of your senses, your peripheral vision, your auditory, you're just waiting to see what's going to happen. So
yeah.
both of those things, I think, it's great practice for meditation. It gets you. It helped prepare me for it, actually.
Yeah, because it's amazing how quickly time passes when you're so focused on photography. I mean, Jennifer says to me, she said, "You don't realize how long you've been there, focused on that thing, taking or trying to perfect that image.
Yeah.
An hour would pass just like that, and I would think it'd be a couple of minutes, but she says
Hmm.
you do not realize how long you are focused on those things. So yeah, I guess it's a form of meditation. I'd never thought
Yeah.
of it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, what an interesting subject. We're getting into it already.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you have a great, sequence in front of you, you're, whatever that moment is happening, you're photographing it, or you're preparing for it. The last thing you're thinking about is, oh, did I pay the phone bill and I gotta go? Just, you're in the moment. So
Yeah, everything else disappears. It's
yeah,
incredible, isn't it? And
yeah.
yeah, I
And
mean,
that's
I,
how it
I
should be, really. I mean, that's
exactly, and I get this. Whether I don't like to put myself in a box, as you know, in terms of categorizing myself as a photographer. Because I like wildlife, I like nature, I like landscapes. I wouldn't say I'm a wildlife photographer. I wouldn't say I'm a landscape photographer. I would just say I enjoy taking pictures and I
mm,
enjoy being outside. And it's just my interaction with those elements that I guess resonates with me, and that's what comes across. So yeah, it's a really interesting subject. So yeah, we should look into that. And perhaps the other thing we ought to talk about as well at some point is perhaps we ought to cover some other genres of photography and the influence they can have. When we look at our work in the sort of wildlife nature field.
Yeah.
I think that would be in it. I mean, because I don't know about you, but I draw a lot of inspiration from other genres like street photography or portrait photography. When you're talking about, the use of light, for example, some of those street photographers are just so clever with the way they use, light, and their way they work exposure to generate mood and atmosphere. And I think, you can learn a lot from people that sort of shoot different subjects.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Anyway.
totally agree. Yeah. And when it comes to it's easier if you know these types of disciplines and you start to photograph wildlife. It's no different than a person if you're incorporating it into a scene. So, and I've seen a lot of people in street photography cross over and they'll take some wildlife images and they're very unique and they're very, very good.
Because
So,
they look at it in a different way.
yeah.
Photography isn't about rules. I hate
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah. I mean, if you're approaching photography when using composition, using light, that's a lot different than approaching it as, oh, I love this bird, but I got to photograph that bird. And I'm going to photograph that bird the same way I photographed the previous bird. But what makes this image unique is I don't see that bird as often as well, yeah. I mean, maybe you don't think so, but that doesn't make the picture unique.
Yeah, because you're going away from the sort of documentary approach
Yeah.
to looking at something and trying to portray it in a different way to the viewer. You're trying to elicit a different emotional response from somebody who's looking at that image. And I think that's great, because I mean, going back to the competition and when we're looking at images, isn't it always a thrill when you see something and you think, I haven't seen that before?
Yeah,
I
especially of common
really,
species, right? I
yeah.
mean, yeah.
I mean, we had a couple of those images earlier today, didn't we?
Oh,
When
absolutely.
we were looking through those submissions and when we were getting down to the sort of nitty gritty towards the end and really trying to pick, the awarded photographs, there were a couple of there and a couple of common subjects as well. And that's often the way, isn't it? You see something very common or photographed frequently, but it's done in a different way.
Yeah. Or you
So
have and you have a unique image that's absolutely stunning and it's photographed with, a $200 piece of equipment in totality.
yeah,
So,
which is what we had today.
so there's,
Yeah, absolutely. And you think, how have they done that with that camera? That's clever. Our Sky's just arrived to say hello. So she's just rubbing around my feet. I'm sat at the desk. So if she starts barking, you'll know. Anyway, no, Josh. Anyway, this is supposed to be just a sort of quick. Well, thank you to everybody who's listened to the podcast over the last year, 18 months, however long we've been doing it, but I guess 2023 in particular. To wish everybody, I guess, very sort of happy holidays, happy Christmas, and all the best for, I guess, 2024, because I think it's going to be an exciting year.
I think so too. I really do. And but yeah, thank you all again. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you all for the support. Thank you all for the comments. Thank you all for listening, and a lot more good material coming up. Just talking about the past couple of minutes, Rob. I think we've come up with a few different things. It's exciting. We could talk about this stuff for days.
It is. I mean, I guess if we had unlimited time, we could just sort of sit here and do this every week. But it is quite difficult at times, particularly with the time difference between us and the, and the US.
Mm-hmm.
That makes the window slightly smaller. And then when you factor in guests from, the other parts of the world, then that window becomes even smaller. And it's trying to juggle everything. It does make it, a little awkward at times. But, we as I said, we're going to try our best next year to try and record a few more, cover a few more diverse topics, get a few more guests on, because apart from anything else, it's a really fun thing to do. You know, I mean, well, we both love talking about photography, don't we?
Yeah.
And you know, it's just such an enjoyable process to record these. And if people get something out of it, be it just a bit of entertainment, light-hearted entertainment for an hour or so, or you know, you're learning things, or a combination of the two, then that's great. You know, that's what it's designed to do. You know, we're not going to reinvent the wheel or rule the world or change the world probably, but you know, if we can bring a bit of a bit of light into people's lives every now and again, then that's great. That'll do for me. So
yeah, same here.
Yeah. What's have you got anything planned for 24 yet, or are you still working on?
Not yet. Still working to see, you know, where I'm gonna definitely, you know, in and around the house, I'll continue to shoot. And, you know, I'm still this is all still new for me because I'll be here at the new house it'll be 2 years in February. So I'm still, you know, through the seasons exploring and seeing what's moving through. So I'll do a lot of shooting here. You know, it's maybe a trip or two. I'll have to figure that out. I've got a few ideas, but nothing solidified just yet.
Yeah, well, Jennifer and I are determined that so this coming year is all about making memories from now on, and so we've got a few things that, you know, holidays mainly, but you know, I can get some photography done, you know, in the process of those. So some trips away to Wales, and I think, well, I mentioned this last time on the last episode, you know, a trip to France in the summer, you know, back to Wales again maybe in the autumn, and a few sort of weekends and days, you know, in between times. And I think one of the things that I'd really like to focus on as well next year is to make a few more films. You know, I quite enjoyed making some YouTube videos, but trying to up the game with that and make some really interesting content. So that you know, that would be nice. That would be a nice thing to do, because apart from anything else, it kind of documents what I've been doing throughout the year. So yeah, that would be a fun thing to do. But yeah, we'll see what comes of it. And of course, we've got Wild Art as well, and I'm going to work on my plans, you know, for the competition while I'm away, because I've got a few ideas to how to sort of restructure things slightly with the competition going forward into 2024, just to free up a bit more of my time for other things, because it's been quite a drain on my time. But it's a fun thing to do, to see all this amazing photography coming through. So yeah, definitely want to to keep up with that competition, but yeah, working on a few changes. So yeah, look out for those in the coming year. But Josh, it's been great to chat. As I said, we were going to come on and just do 10 minutes, and we've done nearly half an hour. So it's always the way, isn't it?
This is true. Yeah.
But anyway, well, I hope you have a great break. You know, have a wonderful Christmas, and yeah, we'll speak again in the new year. So yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rob. Well, listen, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone, and we will talk to you in the new year. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, everybody, for listening. Have a great holiday. Have a great Christmas, New Year, and all that. And we'll speak to you in 2024. You have been listening to the Wildlife Photography Podcast. If you have enjoyed the content, then please help us to spread the word by sharing a link on your social media platforms, giving us a like, and leaving us a comment. See you all again next time.